agencies to make all possible services available online. Our update on government's digitalization initiatives will be divided into four sections: digitalization of government, businesses, industry, and people or human capital. First, let us tackle the prime directive of the President, walang pila, ease of doing business, streamlining, automation. The leadership role of the DICT and ARTA are integral to these efforts. It is important to highlight the regulatory framework that has been set. First, the Ease of Doing Business Act of 2018, which established the ARTA, AO 23 to eliminate overregulation to promote efficiency in government processes, a Republic Act to expedite the processing of national and local permits in times of national emergency, and recently EO 129 creating the Office of Presidential Advisor on Streamlining of Government Processes. As the chair of the EODB ARTA Advisory Council, let me report on the significant work done. The DICT and the ARTA recently launched the Central Business Portal, as reported by Secretary Manasan earlier, which serves as a platform where citizens and business owners can access the forms and requirements they need to register their business. The Philippine Business Data Bank, now on beta testing stage, also allows the public to search and validate any established business in the Philippines. On the Central Business Portal, the first phase has been launched and covers corporate the business permit processes of Quezon City and 17 cities and municipalities. Phase 2 is underway and will further expand the coverage to integrate the registration with other agencies. By the end of the year, we look forward to a central business portal that is a game changer. The second phase will incorporate the Philippine Business Number, which shall serve as a unique business ID, which can be used in transacting with any government agency. While there is a central business portal for registration, may I also point out the existence of a gov.ph, earlier developed by the DICT, which is a single window uniting all web-based government content. Services on business registration, financial assistance, and many more can be accessed through gov.ph. Government agencies are making their services more efficient and making them available online. According to DICT, a total of 187 agencies have active ISSPs or Information Systems Strategic Plan, but there are many other agencies that are automating their business process. Let us cite, for example, the SEC. In order to mitigate physical transactions, the SEC undertook several technological developments and adopted the e-Spark, or the Electronic Simplified Processing of Application for registration of company, which is integrated in the Central Business Portal. The SEC also has made available, among others, an online facility called the Online Submission Tool. In the case of DTI, Digital Transformation Initiatives, we put our critical services online, whether you are a sole proprietor applying for a business name registration, or an importer needing an import commodity clearance, or a manufacturer seeking approval for a Philippine Standard license, or a contractor applying or renewing your license at the PICAB. We have these services online. Let me highlight the DTI Business Name Registration System, launched in 2019 before the pandemic. Our system upgrade made it possible for applicants to register their business names online and obtain their business name certificate in 8 minutes. We made it simple: apply, pay, and download. We believe that the ease and positive user experience resulted in record-breaking numbers. In terms of fees, the DTI saw a shift to greater online payments. In 2020, total fees from business name registration reached 525 million pesos, and 68% were paid online, from 35% the previous year. excuse me. In the case of the Bureau of Internal Revenue, automation is full speed ahead with systems like electronic filing and payment system and electronic BIR forms. Other BIR automation are ePay and electronic audited FS and many more. Likewise, for the Bureau of Customs, there are a number of ICT projects being initiated to ensure seamless and simplified customs service. Customs processing time has been significantly reduced with online systems. Bureau of Customs processed the accreditation of 2,165 customs brokers and almost 15,000 importers in 2020 through the Bureau's customer care portal, which allows online processing. The DICT, DOF, and the Anti-Red Tape Authority have also started to operationalize the TradeNet. TradeNet is the Philippine National Single Window, a cloud-based and automated licensing and certification system integrated into one platform for trade-related regulatory agencies. 76 government agencies will be using the system and serves as the Philippines' link to the ASEAN Single Window. It is intended primarily for traders, customs brokers, shippers, and inbound forwarders. Next is the BSP, or Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, their push for more digital transactions. And some of these have been presented earlier by Governor Ben. I am sure many of us here have benefited from the convenience of our bank's fund transfers. According to the BSP, the combined PESONet and InstaPay transactions have exponentially increased since its launch 3 years ago, as more Filipinos are discovering the benefits of digital payments. On transacting with government, the BSP reports that as of end January, Filipinos could now pay electronically to almost 400 government billers enrolled in the eGov Pay facility. The volume of eGov Pay as of end March 2021 increased year on year by 1,831%. And now the BSP has launched the Philippines National QR Code, or QRPH. Starting with the launch of the person-to-person or P2P QRPH in November 2019, the monthly volume has also exponentially grown. This reflects the ease and convenience experienced by Filipinos in paying through the use of QR codes, given that it is as simple as taking a picture with your mobile phone. The QRPH P2M, or people to merchant, will empower our small businesses to take part in the digital payments and other financial services ecosystem. The digital transformation of government banks, such as Land Bank, facilitates digital payments in government. E-banking transactions have been on a sustained rise as a result of changing customer preferences brought about by the pandemic. DBP, for its part, has accelerated its digital initiatives. DBP successfully disbursed more than 50 billion pesos under the Small Business Wage Subsidy Program that harnessed financial technology to distribute funds efficiently to both bank and unbanked recipients. The MSME loan program Bayanihan Cares, managed by the Small Business Corporation, is also now available online. As of April 14, 2021, a total of 37,989 loan online applications were received with a total equivalent of 3.5 billion pesos approved loan amount. The online facility is from end to end, from loan application to releasing within 4 to 7 days. Kudos also to DepEd, which rolled out various interventions in the light of the no face-to-face schooling. For example, its DepEd's portal was so popular, it was in the top 4 most searched website, and now has more than 10 million unique users. The DepEd's online learning management systems, use of ebooks with Filipino Sign Language, plus blended learning through DepEd TV and radio, speaks to the call, learn by all means, teach by all means. On the local level, many of our cities and municipalities are likewise automating their frontline services, from business permitting, payment of taxes, and even contact tracing. The cities in NCR have set up their own online registration systems and payment systems. Outside of Metro Manila, we also have cities like San Fernando, Cagayan de Oro, Mandaue City that have end-to-end systems just like Valenzuela and Parañaque in NCR. Third-class to sixth-class cities and municipalities are also being assisted by DICT, ARTA, and DILG. DICT provided training to about 400 LGUs on IBPLS, a software that allows online processing of business permits and licenses. We expect these numbers to increase by June 2021. I'm sure you will all agree that digitalization is not possible without connectivity and that there is no e-commerce without internet. Thus, both the legislative and executive branches of government formulated policies to address access to reliable and fast internet services. Bulk of this was presented again by Secretary Honasan. But let me just cite 3 points here. Pinadali po natin ang permitting and licensing ng mga telcos. This saw the issuance by ARTA of a joint memo circular on streamlined guidelines for the issuance of permits for telco tower, which significantly shortened the processing time from 8 months to just 16 days. It also reduced 13 permits to 8. This was further reinforced when Congress, under the Bayanihan 2 Act, provided for the temporary suspension of requirements to secure permits for the construction of internet infrastructure. And just last month, the President signed EO 127 expanding the provision of internet services through satellites to have universal access to fast and reliable internet services. The role of government as enablers is also key to the digitalization of business. Under Bayanihan 2, Congress directed the DTI in coordination with other implementing agencies to accelerate and undertake massive promotion of online commerce. Thus, early this year, DTI launched the E-commerce Philippines 2022 Roadmap. We are giving new meaning to e-commerce to mean easy commerce. The objectives are simple. Grow e-commerce by promoting more online sellers and online buyers who will buy more frequently. We are promoting cashless transactions and lowering of logistics costs. To grow e-commerce, the roadmap shall focus on market access, digitalization, and logistics integration. In short, madali, M-A-D-A-L-I. As the President said, we need to build trust and confidence in online transactions, stronger protection for online consumers. The President directed the DTI to work closely with Congress in ensuring that the provisions of the Internet Transactions Act are responsive to the needs of the consumers while promoting the growth of e-commerce in the country. The roadmap aims to develop a cadre of digitally skilled workers to support the e-commerce sector, increase the number of e-commerce enterprises to 1 million by 2022, and increase e-commerce contribution to GDP to 5.5%. We know the increased adoption of e-commerce over the past year. Our records will show that more and more people are getting into the online business. Based on the DTI BNRS business name registration system, there has been a considerable increase in business names registered for online businesses from 1,848 as of March 2020 before the pandemic to 86,726 for just April to December 2020. Online BN registration more than tripled, 381% in the first quarter of this year. As our pandemic response for micro SMEs, the DTI initiated the Reboot program to help small businesses take the first step forward to online business. The DTI engaged the active participation of the private sector, the digital platforms, last mile delivery logistics services, fintechs, training institutions, which provided assistance such as training, the waiving of onboarding fees, access to loans, and discounts. From 16 when we started in 2020, we now have 28 partners which continue to help us in the e-commerce goal. Through the Control B's Reboot Now project, we have assisted more than 25,000 entrepreneurs and potential entrepreneurs. Practitioners from the private sector tackled practical topics ranging from why should I take my business online, or how to scale up and automate your business for growth. Topics on intellectual property, digital payments, and building your online presence with Facebook were certified hits. Ongoing is our scaled-up Control B's Reboot Now sessions with curated topics and a learning management system in place. These are also available through the DTI YouTube channel and website. DTI also shifted our approach on marketing and promotions of Philippine products. We began to organize digital bagsakan special projects, partnering with last-mile delivery services such as Grab, Lalamove, Mr. Speedy. These digital bagsakan projects assisted fruit growers, farmers, and social co-ops and micro SMEs. DTI promoted virtual trade fairs, digital stores, digital malls, and facilitated the onboarding of MSMEs in marketplace platforms such as Shopee, Lazada, and Shopinas. Go Local, our flagship brand, also shifted to selling through strong marketplace platforms. According to Statista, monthly visits to leading e-commerce sites such as Lazada and Shopee as of September 2020 was over 30 million for each. For its part, the DOST also developed an online market for locally made goods. Last year, OneStore.ph was relaunched as part of the DOST's efforts to assist small enterprise technology upgrading program, in which they assist micro SMEs in adopting progressive technology practices. Interagency collaboration has been effective in our quest for new business models. In the area of agriculture and food, the DTI, DA, and the USAID collaborated to implement Deliver-E, an innovative e-commerce platform designed to connect farmers to buyers through an end-to-end market-based system. It is a farm-to-table concept, reducing the layers of traders. Launched last December, over 300 tons of fresh produce were transacted through the Deliver-E online platform. Moreover, about 1,000 farmers from Benguet, Batangas, Camarines Sur, Nueva Vizcaya, and Quezon were able to bring their produce to key markets. On digitalization of industries, we must highlight the role of the private sector in the digital transformation of industries. Government's role is to ensure that the ecosystem is conducive for growth and development. The DTI and the multi-stakeholders formulated the AI roadmap. A National Center for AI Research, or NCARE, will be established to serve as a hub where MNCs and even the SMEs can explore R&D and data analytics projects with research and academic institutes. We have also partnered with tech companies like Siemens and Tugsud to conduct Industry 4.0 masterclasses and assess the readiness of firms. Last year, we finished the pilot assessment of a chemical company. DTI Digital Startup Programs focuses on supporting tech-based startups. These programs are interrelated, such as the Global Acceleration Program, the International and Local Exposure Assistance Program, or ILEAP, and the Startup Venture Fund. In implementing these programs, we are partnering with enablers such as Silicon Valley-based accelerators, Plug and Play, and 500 startups, Launch Garage, Field Dev, QBO, and Startup Village. Meanwhile, the DOST, be sure, launched 9 new projects on AI research and development aimed at spurring growth in the emerging industry. For the last part of the presentation, we shall tackle digitalization of human capital. We need to upskill and reskill. As such, DTI and TESDA are collaborating with Skills Future Singapore in developing skills frameworks to guide firms, government, and workers in crafting and implementing reskilling, upskilling programs to prepare our workforce for Industry 4.0. TESDA has ramped up also their investments in people, given the importance of future-ready and emerging skills. With this, new wave of skills have been defined. TESDA continues to develop technical regulations and now has a total of 20 training regulations on digital skills, from animation, contact center services, to medical coding and claims. In 2020, TESDA had a total of 19,195 graduates on digital skills course. For its part, the DICT provides digital skills training to government employees, the general public, knowledge workers, teachers, and MSMEs. The DICT is also implementing Digital Jobs PH program for socio-economically disadvantaged areas in the country. The Digital Job PH offers 29 training programs such as chatbot, e-commerce development, virtual assistance Cinema 4D, product visualization, among others. In the case of DOST, there is Project Sparta, the Smarter Philippines through Data Analytics R&D, Training and Adoption, that aims to establish the necessary online education and R&D infrastructure. And DTI has initiated the Pivot Embrace Technology PET project to focus on basic and advanced digital skills for the e-commerce sector. I am always reminded that we now live in an era when information technology skills are no longer for those in the IT industry, because today, all of us, young or old, baby boomer, Gen X, millennial or zillennial, each productive member of the society must possess certain degree of digital skills. In support of the Philippine Development Plan, the DTI has been working on the employability of our OFWs, and we have successfully pilot tested a reskilling program called Work Remote Program with the help of Senator Angara. We received very generous positive feedback from our participants on our Work Remote PET project, as many lives were touched, particularly those who lost employment due to the pandemic. The Work Remote project emboldened career shifters, and many embraced the new meaning of OFW, online Filipino workers. As our last initiative towards investing in our people, we are pleased to report about the DTI e-commerce office collaboration with DepEd NCR to pilot e-commerce courses for both senior high school students and alternative learning system learners, which we hope the DepEd can scale nationwide. The end in view is a digital Philippines, characterized by an economy with an available infrastructure, efficient governance, and future-ready workers. As we continue our final leg, we call on Congress to enact important pending bills such as the proposed bills on internet transactions, digital taxation, and the National 30-Year Infrastructure Bill. There are also a number of proposed legislative measures under consideration in Congress in promoting the digital economy. To conclude, the world we were born in 60 or even 20 years ago is not the same world we live in today. Technology has changed the way we communicate, move, trade, or do business. Prior to COVID-19 pandemic, our economy has been solidly growing at more than 6% per year. After 4.5 years of committed programs under the Duterte administration, we were seeing tremendous growth in our economy, fast and massive infrastructure spending of the government never seen in history, the lowest unemployment, huge increase in investment registrations, and huge reduction in poverty. Then COVID happened, a challenge of unprecedented proportions for any administration for any country. But there is another story to this, the story of the great transformation of our economy, led by the technological changes that we are all embracing. And now we experience the enormous benefits of being digital and online. The good news is our country is best suited for the digital world because many are digital natives. Our large, growing, young, and agile population are one of the heaviest users of internet in the world, spending at least 10 hours daily in social media, where over 73% are connected to internet in 2020, from just 48% in 2016, where the Philippines is ranked 12th in terms of graduates in sciences, 16th in high-tech patent grants, 5th in terms of number of female tech experts. In short, we have digital transformation that our strong economy has been waiting for to accelerate to levels of growth that can wipe out the poverty in our country in less than a decade. And this DNA will be nourished by our strong economic fundamentals, our continuous services exports, and OFW remittances, our large domestic consumption, our large and growing local economies. Digital Philippines is already happening. We were made for this, and now we are embracing our digital destiny. We will be an entirely transformed nation. On our part in government, we initiated an all-of-e-government approach, underpinned by a whole-of-nation approach, where businesses, industries, people, and the whole society move as one, faster together. The key is to move, to always move forward. Sulong, Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you very much, Secretary Lopez, for that very thorough update on the government's digitalization of business processes, our e-commerce programs, and the training to help our employees enter the fourth industrial revolution. Now, to discuss the updates on agricultural programs and innovations, our next speaker is none other than our Department of Agriculture Secretary, Secretary William Dar. Secretary Dar, the floor is yours, sir.
Paula, maraming salamat. Sulong Pilipinas, mahal namin Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte, colleagues in the cabinet, friends, ladies and gentlemen, magandang araw sa mamayang Pilipino. Food security is our overarching goal. Second to public health concerns, the food security of our people during this pandemic has been and will always be a paramount goal of the Philippine government. COVID-19 has magnified the weaknesses of the agricultural sector and compelled us to confront the challenges in the sector. The food security imperative revolves around increasing our farm productivity to guarantee adequate food supply. However, the availability of food at affordable prices to our consumers, particularly the poor, completes the equation. For this reason, we closely monitored agricultural productivity. Unfortunately, we were not encouraged by the results. The overall productivity of the agricultural sector hovered at an average of 1.2% during the last decade. In contrast, our population growth rate was registering higher than our agricultural productivity. In other words, we are not producing enough food to meet the demands of our ever-increasing population. We have focused our tracking activities on key food commodities such as rice, livestock, poultry, and corn, fisheries, and vegetables. This comprise more than 70% of our agricultural gross value added. We also included the coconut subsector in this examination, despite its contribution of only around 4% to total agricultural GVA. It is a top Philippine export that brings in considerable foreign exchange. Besides, we now have substantial budgetary resources to develop this sleeping giant, thanks to the passage of the Coconut Farmers and Industry Trust Fund Law, or Republic Act number 11524. Recognizing the strategic importance of the above food commodities, we have implemented a number of measures to boost their productivity. In rice, upon my assumption of the DA leadership in August 2019, we immediately distributed various assistance to our palay farmers under the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, RCEP, whose creation was stipulated by the Rice Tariffication Law. Among the assistance extended to our farmers are pre-inbred seeds, farm machineries, subsidized credit, and capacity building training programs. The remaining funds from the RCEP and the additional funding from Bayanihan 1 and 2 were used to provide free fertilizers, hybrid seeds, and cash assistance to the poorest of the poor farmers. We are happy to report that palay production rose to 19.4 million metric tons in 2020, higher than the record obtained in 2017, which was at 19.2 million metric tons. This quarter alone, palay harvest significantly increased by 7.2%, as reported by the Philippine Statistics Authority, PSA. We are thus expecting that we will surpass our performance last year with this year's harvest, and in the process attaining 93% rice sufficiency for the country. This has been an unprecedented feat since the Masagana 99 in the 70s. Similarly, we'd like to note with pride that even at the height of the pandemic last year, coinciding with the lean months of palay harvest, the country never experienced rice queues or rice pila. The livestock, poultry, and corn subsector has been particularly affected by the pandemic, with the closures of many fast food chains, restaurants, street food operations, and others. Corn primarily serves as an animal feed ingredient. Despite this, we have seen growth in our corn productivity as we ramp up assistance to our corn farmers through our national corn program. Our poultry industry shows signs of revival with the gradual opening of our economy and the shift of consumers to chicken spurred by rising pork prices. It is in the hog subsector where we are encountering difficulty as the outbreak of the African swine fever caused a shortfall. Nevertheless, we are implementing several measures to check the spread of ASF and promote the repopulation and recovery of our local hog industry. I am happy to note that the incidence of the African swine fever outbreak has gone down from 4,060 cases in the third quarter of 2020 to only 981 cases in the first quarter of 2021. We have also linked with about 10 companies to undertake trial tests of ASF vaccines in the country. We just started this April 23 of 2021, one of which is the Zoetis Incorporated, the largest producer of medicine and vaccination for pets and livestock. Our plant program puts more vegetables on the tables of our consumers. This pandemic stimulus program unfolds the urban agriculture and community food sufficiency programs, wherein partner local government units and local community partners, farmers, such as church groups and civil society organizations, are encouraged by the department to plant vegetables in their backyards or vacant lots. DA provides them free vegetable seeds and planting materials. We are glad that our efforts are paying off. Vegetables are in ample supply in the market today and can be bought at stable prices. We intend to continue this program as it does not only provide the food requirement of our people, but also ensures a nutritious and balanced diet for them. While we have a coastline of around 200 million hectares compared to 30 million hectares of land, wherein only 11 million hectares are cultivable, the fishery subsector's contribution to agricultural GBA averaged less than 20% in the last decade. This is primarily a product of the degradation and exhaustion of our coastal fishery resources and our inability to attract significant investments in fisheries ventures due to the uncertain policy environment. In the meantime, we are deploying our limited budgetary resources to the development of fishery hubs through the provision of landing sites and storage facilities in various areas of the country with substantial fish catch. As in our previous experience in the development of the Nabotas and General Santos fish landing ports, infrastructure investments will promote their full development as fisheries hubs. However, I'm glad to report that we have an ample supply of fish in the immediate and short term, and prices have stabilized. While coconut's contribution to agricultural GBA has stood at an average of around 4% in the last decade, we expect a dramatic rebound of the subsector in the next few years due to the release of the Coconut Levy Fund by the President. The Coconut Industry Development Plan being formulated by the Philippine Coconut Authority aims to increase the subsector's contribution to agricultural GBA significantly. Given that coconut is planted to more than 3 million hectares, it should be contributing at least 10% to agricultural GBA, surpassing that of banana, which is planted to only around 200,000 hectares. If by God's grace, the country will not be struck by major natural calamities this year, we are targeting an agricultural growth rate of at least 2.5%. We are confident of attaining this given the positive trends in our major agricultural commodities, rice, poultry and corn, vegetables, fisheries, and coconut. Among the three economic sectors, the agriculture sector proved the most resilient during the pandemic. The manufacturing and service sectors posted negative growth rates of 13.2% and 9.2% respectively, significant declines by measure. On the other hand, agriculture contracted only by 0.2%, thus because of the decline in the shares of the manufacturing and service sectors to the economy, the share of agriculture to our GDP increased by 0.95% from 2019 to 2020. The pandemic highlighted several opportunities for the agriculture sector, such as the role of technology in boosting productivity, including that of digital agriculture and e-commerce, pressure to invest more in agriculture by both the government and private sector due to the lack of attractive investment opportunities in the other economic sectors, improving logistics in agriculture through digital technology and greater coordination with the LGUs, and promoting smart agriculture, fishery, and forestry sector to improve the connective links of agri-based supply chains and introduce the circular economy approach. We highlight some of our innovations to ensure adequate supply of food at affordable prices to our consumers. At the height of the pandemic last year, we implemented a number of innovative programs and decisive measures to ensure the steady flow of food at affordable prices to our people. Foremost among this is Kadiwa Niani at Kita, wherein DA deployed a number of mobile stores in strategic places in our urban areas, selling food products directly sourced from farmers at lower prices. The experiment was so successful that a number of LGUs adopted the scheme in their own localities, assisted by the department in linking them to farmers groups who supply them with the required agricultural produce. At present, sales from Kadiwa have reached almost 8 billion pesos and benefited millions of consumers. Furthermore, there abound a lot of credit facilities now for the agriculture sector that are affordable and easy to access. Under Kadiwa, we also promoted the use of e-commerce to connect farmers to their buyers directly. With this arrangement, we were able to read the supply chain of players, of traders whose profit margins jack up the product's final price. Along the lines of minimizing the operations of opportunistic traders, the department provided transport assistance to hog producers in Mindanao, Visayas, and Luzon to have their hogs delivered to the national capital region. Undeniably, this demanded a lot from our personnel, particularly those at the field level. At the same time, we had to defy the advice of our well-meaning economist friends, warning us that the price ceiling would not work, but it had to be done to show that the government really cared about the ordinary people, particularly the poor. We were relatively successful in checking the dramatic upsurge in pork prices till the next measure was recommended, and that is the increase in the MAB-in quota allocation for pork and the lowering of tariffs thereof, which is now a raging issue. Just like in the RTL, we are certain that our policy prescription on the matter is sound, as it is meant to attain the greatest good for the greatest number of our people. At the very start of my leadership of the DA, I already unveiled a vision of a modern and industrialized agricultural sector. This means not only improving the productive capacity of the sector, but finding ways we can perform better in the various aspects of the food system. It is within this purview that we are championing the establishment of agribusiness hubs in the country. These hubs will not only serve as consolidation points of agricultural products in such areas of coverage, but as centers of food processing and as incubation hubs for modern farm technologies, equipment, and know-how. We launched one in Clark and another one in Taguig. We will soon establish more in strategic locations in the country. We have piloted the use of satellite imaging technology in monitoring crop production and estimating damages and losses wrought by natural calamities. The use of satellite technology will revolutionize, among others, the crop insurance scheme and agricultural credit as well. Should we obtain additional funding for this project, we intend to immediately cover 3.5 million hectares of our land under cultivation with different crops this year. We are also ramping up the use of digital agriculture. We are exerting efforts to complete the National Registry for Farmers and Fisherfolk. There are more than 9 million farmers and fishers included in the list. In closing, my leadership of the Department of Agriculture, starting in August 2019, saw no respite to the challenges confronting the agriculture sector. RTL was a much maligned law, accelerating the delivery of much-awaited assistance under the RCEP was a tall order. Then there was the outbreak of the SF virus and the decline in copra prices then at the international market. Suddenly, we were confronted with the COVID-19 pandemic, a once-a-century crisis of epic proportions. We had to ensure adequate food supply in our major urban centers by introducing innovative transport arrangements with our LGUs and police authorities manning the checkpoints. These difficulties were followed by the drastic decline in pralay prices and the rapid spread of ASF, now reportedly resulting in the culling of nearly 3 million hogs, a fourth of our total supply. During the last quarter of 2020, the country was visited by successive destructive typhoons, which reduced our projected high harvest of commodities like rice, vegetables, and corn. The summation of all these challenges was akin for the department to being in the middle of a raging perfect storm. But we were not daunted by these challenges. We persevered, we moved forward, and we innovated. We know better our sector. Agriculture is resilient. God designed it that way. Crops will ripen, be harvested, and die. But tomorrow will be another occasion for planting, for renewal. Agriculture was so made that a crisis always turns out as an opportunity for recovery and renewal. For the future Philippine agriculture, we believe that its transformation must be towards having healthier people, healthier economy, and healthier planet. The 1DA approach that we unveiled early this year with its 4 pillars of consolidation, modernization, industrialization, and professionalism will ensure that our envisioned goal for the sector will be attained. Mga kababayan, magtulungan po tayong lahat. Ang ating bansa ay babangon din. Marami pong salamat. Thank you for listening and good day to all.
Thank you very much, Secretary William Dar, for your updates on the DA's program on recovery, transformation, and food security. Now, let me remind everyone that after our last speaker for this session, we will again have a Q&A. So please enter your questions in the chat box. So for our last speaker, he is the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process and the Chief Implementer of the National Action Plan Against COVID-19. Secretary Carlito Galvez will talk about updates on the government's COVID-19 vaccine procurement. Secretary Galvez, sir, the floor is yours.
To the Economic and the Development Cluster, headed by Secretary Carlos Sani Dominguez, to our cabinet secretaries and friends from the different national and local government agencies, the Philippine Chambers of Commerce and Industry, headed by Ambassador Benedicto Yuico, and other business organizations, member of the Diplomatic Corps, foreign chambers of commerce present in the Philippines, representative from JICA, World Bank, ASEAN Development Bank, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and other agencies present. Good afternoon. Today, I would like to share with you some of the strategies that we have employed and significant updates on COVID-19 vaccine procurement and rollout for our vaccination plan. The 3-year Philippine National Vaccine Roadmap is guided by the President Rodrigo Duterte's declaration to provide the Filipino people with safe, effective, and free vaccines for all, particularly for poor and vulnerable communities. Following the guidance of the President, the vision of the Philippine National Vaccine Roadmap is to save more lives, recover our economy, and restore normalcy in the lives of the Filipino people. Its mission is to effectively establish a fully integrated vaccine deployment and immunization program against COVID-19 adopting the whole of nation and whole of society approach. Our ultimate goal is to protect the public and reduce mortality due to the pandemic. To sum it up, the Philippine National Vaccine Roadmap aims to save more lives and recover our economy. This slide shows the Vaccine Roadmap strategic framework, which outlines the key considerations in selecting the vaccines, the processes and stages that shall be undertaken, and the desired end state to be achieved. This will serve as our strategic guide to effectively vaccinate our citizens. For this year, 2021, based on our recalibration plan and preparing for the long haul, we implemented the Containment Strategy, where we prioritize steady vaccine supply and scaled up vaccination program while further strengthening our prevention, detection, isolation, treatment, and recovery strategy. The national government works hand in hand with LGUs and the private sector to fast-track the vaccination and achieve herd immunity the soonest possible time to ensure a better Christmas this year. For 2022, we will implement our pandemic exit strategy, where we will continually address and finally defeat this pandemic. We will achieve vaccine security and partner with domestic and international private pharmaceutical companies in developing our own capability in manufacturing vaccines domestically. And for 2023, we envision self-sufficiency and readiness for the next pandemic and other disasters, with the modernization and integration of our healthcare system in order to completely bridge our country from the valley of death from various fatal diseases. The procurement of our vaccines will come from various sources, namely from multilateral financing institutions, assumed savings, from the DOH appropriation, and Bayanihan funds, with a total amount of 82.5 billion pesos. We would like to express our deepest appreciation to the World Bank, ASEAN Development Bank, the ASEAN Infrastructure Investment Bank for providing us the 58.4 billion pesos for the procurement of millions of doses of hope for our Filipino people. The Philippine situation now must be understood in the light of very limited global supply of vaccines, where every country in the world is seeking to gain access to vaccines and where 80% of the available supply was already being taken by richest countries. Knowing there is a limited supply, our policy is to build a portfolio of safe and effective vaccines, working with the private sector and our local government units, because gaining access to more vaccine manufacturers and more partners enable us to secure more supply for our countrymen. Given there is not enough supply yet, the Philippine national government's approach is to pool the national volumes to get a seat at the negotiating table and secure the most number of vaccines at the best price with our partners in the private sector and the LGUs. Pooling the demand enables us to negotiate at lower prices for larger orders. As part of the national government's whole-of-nation approach to deal with limited global supply of vaccines, it has innovated a solution allowing other parties like the private sector and LGUs to immediately purchase secure vaccines and augment the country's supply. The tripartite agreement, as emphasized in RA 11525, known as the National Vaccination Program Act, which is the first of its kind in the world, enable the national government in partnership with the LGUs and private sector to unlock the best prices for vaccines, gain access to more supply, and dramatically expand the sectors that can be vaccinated. As a strategy to address limited global supply, we have developed a vaccine portfolio wherein we simultaneously negotiate with several vaccine makers in order to ensure a steady and secure supply of anti-COVID vaccine. As shown on the slide, the Philippine government has now 5 completed contracts with vaccine manufacturers that will provide the country with a secure and steady supply of anti-COVID jabs this year. Bulk of this vaccine will be arriving mid-year and would be able to significantly scale up the implementation of our vaccine program and enable the country to achieve herd immunity at a faster rate starting in June and July. As of now, FDA issued 6 emergency use authorization to vaccine manufacturers. And this afternoon, Moderna through Swilly already submitted its application. As of today, we have already 3 WHO emergency utilization lists with Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and J&J, meaning they will be qualified for COVAX facility. Presented in this slide is the status of the rollout and vaccine deliveries. As of April 25, we already vaccinated 1.5 million Filipinos with 1.7 million jabs administered for our healthcare workers, senior citizens, and people with comorbidities. By June, we expect to accelerate our vaccination with the increasing supply of 8 to 10 million per month. Increasing steadily with expected deliveries of our purchase orders during the third and fourth quarter of the year with 15 to 20 million doses each month. We are expecting to receive more or less 140 million doses by end of this year. This excludes the COVAX 44 million doses. In order to simplify and accelerate our vaccination, we started last April the simultaneous administration of vaccine for A1, A2, A3 categories. By June, we can open our vaccination for our productive population with the government and economic frontliners and indigent population categorized as A4 and A5. By August, when supply is aplenty, we will open the vaccination to the general public. Shown on this slide is the Philippine ranking. We are now ranked number 4 in the Southeast Asian nation, 50th out of 47 countries in Asia, and 42nd out of 190 countries currently vaccinating. So hindi po tayo nangungulelat. Before I end, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to the member agencies of the IATF, the National Task Force, and the Vaccine Cluster for your hard work and commitment in fighting this pandemic. We would like also to express our thanks to the LGUs, to the private sector for their support to the national government since the start of the pandemic and bringing more than 23 million doses of hope for our Filipino workforce. Thank you po sa lahat po ng ating mga members ng private sector, lalo-lalo na po ang member ng ating Philippine Chambers of Commerce and Industry. We would like also to thank the Department of Finance legal team headed by USEC Mark Denisoven and the diplomatic team headed by USEC Robert Borge and Ambassador Babe Romandes, and also the Department of Foreign Affairs team for the successful outcomes of our negotiation. In conclusion, it is a desire of the Duterte administration to vaccinate all Filipinos for free. This is with the belief that no one is safe until everyone is safe. Ang sabi nga po ng ating mahal na Pangulo, walang maiiwan, walang iwanan. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Secretary Galvez. And I know everyone has a lot of questions for our secretaries, but before we move on to the question and answer portion, we will have our last Cabinet Secretary to present. May we now call on Cabinet Secretary Carlo Alexi Nograles to talk about how the government monitors the Sulong Pilipinas recommendations and how these suggestions shape policy making. Secretary Nograles, the floor is now yours.
Thank you very much. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. It is both an honor and pleasure for me to be here today and along with the other members of the Cabinet have the opportunity to express the administration's appreciation for your active involvement in helping to improve the implementation of socio-economic policies through the Sulong Pilipinas initiative. The Duterte administration has always placed a premium on the sentiments of the Filipino people, knowing fully well that the chances of government to fulfill its development goals greatly increase if it has the support and cooperation of the very people it is tasked to lead and sworn to serve. As mentioned earlier in the forum, the administration has pushed for sustainable development through its socio-economic agenda and other priorities. However, given that the government cannot claim to have a monopoly of solutions to all of our problems and concerns as a nation, the Sulong Pilipinas has provided a venue for the convergence of public and private sector initiatives, which aim to help address the evolving needs of the Filipino people. As such, the President and his cabinet truly value the recommendations born from these forums, which are based on the experience of various stakeholders on the ground and seriously consider them in the formulation of national policy. In this connection, just to give an overview of how recommendations from the different sectors find their way towards becoming part of national policy, allow me to briefly share the cabinet decision-making process. While agenda items proposed for cabinet discussion may emanate from the President himself, his cabinet secretaries, and other stakeholders such as public, private sector proponents, and other branches of government, proposed policy recommendations ideally first go through the Cabinet Assistance System, or CAS, for multi-sectoral and multi-agency vetting, with the intention of further enhancing the proposal before it goes to the Cabinet. The Cabinet clusters may also vet and propose policy recommendations for elevation to the Cabinet or refer these to the CAS if there is a need to consult with a wider group of agencies. The Cabinet clusters also have the option to convene jointly or in groups to foster wider and more in-depth discussion on key topics for Cabinet deliberations. Once adopted by the Cabinet, recommendations from the Cabinet agenda items become presidential directives and policy guidance, which are then cascaded to implementing agencies. To give a concrete example of the process which directly relates to our Sulong Pilipinas Forum, allow me to share that, like most agenda items intended for the Cabinet, the 2018 Sulong Pilipinas recommendations were first presented to the CAS when the Department of Finance presented the matter during the 34th CAS meeting in December of 2018. Upon the CAS's approval, the proposed actionable recommendations were elevated to the Cabinet and were discussed during the 35th Cabinet meeting in March of 2019. During the said Cabinet meeting, the following 2018 Sulong Pilipinas recommendations were presented, covering agricultural productivity and farmer income, additional infrastructure to improve access and mobility, simplification of loan requirements for MSMEs and farmers, access to education, stricter profiling and inclusion of livelihood training in the 4 Ps, streamlining of government processes and red tape reduction, proper implementation of infrastructure projects to lessen business disruptions, police and military visibility in rural and coastal areas, and back then, the continued implementation of martial law in Mindanao, improvement of health facilities and services, and the provision of tax incentives for small businesses. Based on these, the Department of Finance requested the support and approval of the President and his Cabinet on the following. 1. Sharing of agency updates to Sulong Pilipinas stakeholders. 2. Organization of the Agricultural Industry Summit to enhance the sector's productivity and contribution to economic growth. 3. The appointment of the Director General of the Anti-Red Tape Authority for urgent release of the IRR of the Ease of Doing Business law. 4. The transmittal of the 4 Ps bill within the 17th Congress. And 5th, the agency contribution and regular updating of their inclusive growth indicators for the pre-State of the Nation address and other purposes. So 5 presidential directives were then issued based on these requested actions related to the 2018 Sulong Pilipinas recommendations. All 5 directives have been addressed by the government agencies concerned. So for approval of the sharing of agency updates to Sulong stakeholders, a newsletter containing agency updates were emailed to stakeholders, and updates and recommendations were posted in the 2018 Sulong Pilipinas website and Facebook page. For organizing an agricultural industry summit to enhance the sector's productivity and contribution to economic growth, the Department of Finance, DA, DTI, and BSP facilitated the Sulong Pilipinas Agribusiness Summit held on December 17, 2019 in Davao City. On the appointment of the Director General of ARTA, a Director General of ARTA was then appointed and the Ease of Doing Business IRR was signed in July of 2019. On the fourth item, instructing the PLLO to ensure transmittal of the 4-piece bill within the 17th Congress, Republic Act number 11310, or the 4-piece Act, was then signed into law on April 17 of 2019. And on the fifth item, on instructing all relevant agencies to contribute and regularly update, Data Fiesta, a collaborative data sharing event between the EDC and the Human Development Poverty Reduction Clusters, was held on April 30, 2019, and monitoring of inclusive growth indicators is currently ongoing and continuous. Now, many of the results of the 2019 and 2020 Sulong Pilipinas and many of the recommendations are actually aligned with the presidential priorities and key result areas and have either been addressed or are being facilitated. In this connection, allow me to just name a few of these presidential priorities and KRAs that are in sync with the Sulong recommendations. On tax reforms, as was already stated, the President signed into law the CREATE Act on March 26, 2021, which provides businesses, especially MSMEs, with one of the largest stimulus packages ever in the country's history, in the form of sizable cuts in corporate income taxes and a redesigned fiscal incentive system to better attract investments and create jobs. On infrastructure to improve access and mobility, per the DPWH earlier, from July 2016 to December 2020, there were 10,376 flood mitigation structures completed, 26,494 kilometers of road constructed, maintained, widened, upgraded, and rehabilitated, 5,555 bridges constructed, widened, upgraded, and rehabilitated, and major infrastructure projects were also completed, such as the Urdaneta City Bypass Road, Ulilian Baliwag Diversion Road in Bulacan, the T-Plex, the NLEX Harbor Link, and the Metro Manila Skyway Stage 3. On streamlining government processes and reducing red tape, some accomplishments in this regard include the launching of the Central Business Portal, Phase 1, inspection of Metro Manila's LGU's compliance with the provisions of the Ease of Doing Business law in relation to business permit renewal, the continuous monitoring of improvements and reforms initiated by agencies with most ARTA-related complaints, ongoing development of the Unified Logistics Pass for truckers, and upcoming launching of the Go Smart app and ARTA call center via 8888. On the national ID, as was stated earlier, over 28 million individuals have been registered for Step 1, or the demographic data collection for PhilSys, since it started in October of 2020. Of this number, over 2.4 million individuals have completed their Step 2 registration, which covers biometrics capture. Meanwhile, more than 440,000 have opened bank accounts on site as of March 31, 2021. Step 3, or the issuance of the PhilSys numbers and PhilIDs, will begin this May. This is a key initiative in digitizing public services and improving the distribution of social assistance programs. On health facilities and services, with the approval of the Universal Healthcare Act in February of 2019, every Filipino was automatically included in the National Health Insurance Program. Relatedly, as of March 30, 2021, 111.8 million Filipinos have been covered by PhilHealth. Among other efforts to improve the nation's health system, the DOF, BTR, DBM, DOH, and Land Bank have agreed to upgrade regional and specialized hospitals through the Health Facilities and Enhancement Program, or HFEP. The DOH is also closely coordinating with the DOF and the DBM to ensure the budgetary requirements for the implementation of the DOH's Philippine Health Facility Development Plan in 2022 are included in the Department of Health's fiscal year 2022 budget proposal. On improving farm-to-market access, as of April 19, 2021, the DA has deployed Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita on Wheels in 965 barangays and 892 communities in the NCR, with overall sales from the KAK project totaling 963.36 million pesos, and on policy reforms to improve freight and logistics and develop industrial value chain links in the country, the government continues to prioritize policy, structural, and logistics reforms that will serve as the backbone of ongoing efforts to improve the business environment and create development opportunities. In addition, many recommendations from the 2020 Sulong Pilipinas touched on the various aspects of the country's COVID-19 management and response efforts, such as the following: intensify testing, ensure efficient contact tracing with digital tools, and augment healthcare capacity. 246 testing laboratories accredited nationwide. Stay Safe app has 15 million individual users and is being utilized by 700 LGUs across the country. We hired 234,011 contact tracers nationwide. We established 9,766 national and local quarantine facilities with a total bed capacity of 132,777. And we've constructed modular hospitals for moderate to critical cases. On assistance and access to affordable or lower interest loans for businesses, 2.9 billion worth of loans under the COVID Assistance to Restart Enterprises program approved by the DTI Small Business Corporation. 14.88 billion worth of loans under the Interim Rehabilitation Rescue to cushion unfavorably affected enterprises by COVID-19 or iRescue lending program approved by Land Bank. The Phil Guarantee guaranteed 952.5 million pesos worth of loans for MSMEs as of February of 2021. On to assistance to students and infrastructure for education, which includes access to gadgets and internet connection. The DepEd, Department of Education and the ICT signed 2 agreements to establish the Public Education Network, which aims to accelerate digital connectivity of all public schools and DepEd offices nationwide. And DepEd will make the virtual in-service training and DepEd Commons more accessible to teachers and learners to allow resource and learning materials to be easily shared, discovered, and reviewed online. On to comprehensive recovery roadmap for the tourism industry. To facilitate travel movement and promote local tourism, the IATF MEID approved in February of 2021 uniform travel protocols for LGUs. And the DOT has embarked on a digital tourism campaign. For example, Balikan ang Pilipinas, to promote tourist attractions and encourage foreign visitors' arrivals once COVID-related travel restrictions are lifted. And local tourist spots were reopened, provided that with strict health and safety protocols being followed. And in ensuring the availability of public transportation and invest in alternative modes of transportation, the Department of Transportation, MMDA, and AFP have been providing free rides to healthcare workers with 2,568,014 total ridership nationwide as of April 21, 2021. 35,565 PUV drivers nationwide registered under the PUV Service Contracting Program, and 181.24 kilometers of bike lanes were established in Metro Manila, 41.22 kilometers in Metro Cebu, and 8.97 kilometers in Metro Davao. Finally, to ensure reliable and high-speed internet through investments on ICT infrastructure, we've completed the Luzon bypass infrastructure, an integral component of the National Broadband Program. And Dito Telecom debuted on March 8, 2021 in 15 selected areas in the Visayas and Mindanao. As of April 16, it has expanded its services to 21 more cities. And 2,220 telecommunications permits and clearances to build cell towers have been approved by various LGUs. Given all these initiatives and the promising convergence of ideas between the government and the private sector, we really have much to be thankful for, and we look forward to, and many that we look forward to in terms of our efforts to bring sustainable development to our nation. And so, before I end my presentation, let me just leave you with these simple, relevant key messages that sum up how much this administration values the inputs of each and every Filipino. The Duterte administration acknowledges the important role that the general public and different citizens groups play in policy making. In particular, Sulong Pilipinas is definitely one of the major initiatives of the government that has increased stakeholders' participation and provided a venue to discuss ways to address issues and concerns that are truly important to the people. In the end, trust that the needs, interests, and views of the people are of foremost consideration in every policy decision of the President and his cabinet. So, again, we thank you for your continued support and active participation in our quest to uplift the living conditions of each and every Filipino as we collectively bring our nation to the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Daghang salamat ug maayong hapon kaniyang tanan.
Thank you, Secretary Nograles, for walking us through the cabinet process of how we actually take into consideration Sulong Pilipinas recommendations. So now that we know that the cabinet really puts into consideration our suggestion, now we have a lot of time to think about what we will vote for later and during the breakout sessions for the top recommendations. So now we encourage everyone to put all your questions in our chat box. And we will now start the short Q&A for this session. For this Q&A, may we again call on Sir Romeo Bernardo to be our moderator?
Thank you. Thank you, Asik Paula. Thank you, Honorable Secretaries, for the very comprehensive and informative, inspiring, and insightful remarks. I understand we only have little time, so I will only ask one question each from the secretaries. We promise to get back to you on your chat box questions and try to provide you answers. This one came much earlier, even before the presentation of Secretary Galvez. This was this morning from Bulsu Joseni Guevara. Is there an office or agency monitoring the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines in the barangay? What is the cause in the delay of the rollout? Seniors and those with comorbidities have registered online but are not updated on their registration. Secretary Galvez.
I cannot be unmuted. Sir, the primary cause of the delay is there is a limited supply. Considering that the supply that we have right now is only during February, we have only 1.5 million from the donation and also from 500,000 procurement. And also in April, we have only 2 million doses that will be delivered. And because of the limited supply, there is some sort of delay also in the administration, particularly for our seniors and our people with comorbidities. But we believe that during the deliveries of our main supply this coming June, we will be able to accelerate, and we have already simulated this with our logistic chain experts, and we see that there will be a tremendous increase of inoculation in the coming days.
Thank you, Secretary Galvez. I noticed you indicated possibility for herd immunity by end of the year.
Yes, sir. Because during our presentation with the Israeli government, they have presented to us that during the time that they have not vaccinated yet their population, there are 10,000 people being the new cases. But after they have vaccinated more than 40% of their population, the number of cases dropped immediately. And these vaccinations are a race against time, and we wanted that our economy to recover immediately. And with the vaccination of our population, including our economic sector, we can achieve herd immunity by having the target of 70 million by November. We have a lot of supply chain experts who made the simulation, and we have already prepared for that.
Thank you, sir. Most reassuring, Secretary. Thank you. This one for Secretary Dar from PhilMays, Roger Navarro. What is the plan to address the post-harvest facility in the industry so badly needed for the longest time?
Dr. Bernardo, thank you, Roger Navarro, PhilMays. We have a plan for the corn industry, particularly the requirements in regard to post-harvest facilities. We are lining this up under the Bayanihan 3. And so substantial allocation will be given to corn processing centers in strategic areas of the country.
Thank you, Secretary. And finally, to Secretary Mon Lopez, you presented a very comprehensive plan on digital government. I guess this one is just to drill down on timing. What's the end state of the central business portal, where we want to have pure end-to-end, all in one day? When might we anticipate that to be done, sir? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, partner, Dr. Romy Bernardo. The end state really for Central Business Portal, and this is really a challenge to all the agencies that are part of that portal, is to do everything real time and less than a day. Because if you think about it, if people register, let's say in SEC, if the documents are complete and they fill up properly and even submit, upload the documents, it could be a matter of seconds. I mean, the end state, not now, but the end state. It could be a matter of seconds. And that copy can be forwarded to the SSS Pag-ibig PhilHealth, and that theoretically, again, right now, it is probably 1 day each. But again, if you think about it, it can be done also in a few minutes. It's just a matter of uploading to those agencies also at the same time, and then to the BIR. Now, so all those agencies, theoretically, again, our target, frankly, it's a fighting target to do everything in less than a day, and this is a challenge for all the agencies concerned. And then, of course, you have to also work with the LGUs, which by themselves they are implementing, as reported, the electronic business one-stop shop. And if that can be done also within a day, like having a provisional approval, just like in Valenzuela, and then all of this can be in 1 day. Where they came from, I mean, the number of days before are, I think, more than 20 or 30 days, no? But right now we're able to trim it down closer to about 5 days. But that 5 days, I believe, within the year, if we work together, can really be squeezed into less than a day. That's the end state.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you so much, Secretary Mon.
Thank you.
Is Cabsec Nograles still on the line? I knew he had to leave. If he is, I'd like to. I don't know, Secretary Cabsec. I don't know if you have the answer to this. It's a question from an FEF colleague. It's really for a DOH official, but you might have the answer. What are we seeing in terms of the progression of the new variants? Is it correct to say that some of the recent spikes are attributable to this? Are the younger people more vulnerable, and therefore may have some implications on quarantine policies down the road? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We're still studying with DOH is currently evaluating and studying the science behind the new variants in terms of whether or not it's affecting younger population groups. No, so unless there is a definite statement from the Department of Health or from our team of epidemiologists with regard to that, then let's not speculate first. No? Number two, we continue to monitor the variants, and as you know, it's part of our genomic surveillance that DOH is currently doing. That being said, while we do know that it's more transmissible, the spike of the number of cases happening in NCR plus is not attributable to the variant only per se. No, it's a multiple number of factors. And that's the reason why we're saying that is because we need multiple approaches also to address the issues. And that would really go back to our PDIDR strategy. So number one, it really redounds to the responsibilities and obligations of our general population for prevention. Meaning to say, nasa kamay natin, it's in the hands of fellow Filipinos to really stem the tide, so to speak. No? Then of course, a lot of things have been said about the other strategies. No? In Detect, we've increased our testing capacities. In Isolate, we've been increasing our temporary treatment and monitoring facilities. We've also been increasing, we're also pushing to increase more of our ICU beds and COVID beds for moderate. So we continue to ramp up the capability and capacity building of our health facilities because we know that this is one way for us to be able to responsibly and more confidently open up the economy, because at the end of the day, we need to get people back to work. But so it would necessarily mean an increase in our ICU capacities and our hospital capacities, and that also includes doesn't entail just the beds, but also the manpower needed for our healthcare workers to man their posts. And so we continue to push for that, no? And moving forward, I think that is something that we will continue to ramp up on, whether or not whatever category it will be. I think it's healthier for us and our economy to have that much bed capacity, not just in NCR Plus, but in all regions as well. Thank you.
Maraming salamat po. I turn over the floor to Sec Alvarez. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Romy. And that ends our third session for the plenary discussion. So we will now move on to the breakout session proper and the press conference. So before we proceed to our breakout groups, please be reminded of the key principles of Sulong Pilipinas workshops. First, keep an open mind. Second, each delegate has an equal opportunity to contribute. Third, contributions benefit from discussions. And fourth, a fair and transparent process will be observed for selecting priorities among the recommendations received. Now, for us to have a productive discourse, I encourage everyone to participate in the discussions. You will now be divided into breakout groups, and we have randomly assigned each of you to a breakout room. Your facilitators will discuss the mechanics of the breakout session. So thank you, and we hope you give us a lot of your thoughts so we could consider them in policy making. Good afternoon.